Ever looked out after a heavy rain, watching water pool right up against your foundation and just wished it would magically disappear? Or maybe you're dreaming of an outdoor space that's not just functional, but genuinely beautiful, a real showstopper.
Oh, yeah, it's such a common struggle, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you take a practical problem like drainage and, well, transform it into something that actually looks good? Most people think these solutions have to be purely utilitarian, kind of ugly fixes.
Exactly. But that's where the true genius of today's deep dive comes in.
Mm,
Today, we're taking a deep dive into transforming that very common nuisance water runoff from your downspout into an elegant, naturalistic landscape feature, a DIY dry creek bed. It's all about merging intelligent design with, well, stunning beauty.
Turning those rainy days into something visually delightful, right?
Precisely. We're going to walk you through exactly how to create a system that not only channels water safely away from your home,
Which is priority number one.
absolutely, but also dramatically boosts your curb appeal using natural elements like river rock and gravel.
Our mission for you, the listener, is to give you the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed on this specific project. Think of it as equipping you with the kind of knowledge an experienced general contractor would have.
Yeah, complete with those surprising facts and practical on-the-ground tips. We're going to break down the planning, the materials you'll need, the tools.
The step-by-step execution. And importantly, we'll even reveal some no-regrets upgrades to make your project truly, let's say, professional grade.
It's about empowering you to tackle this with confidence, avoiding those common, costly mistakes many DIYers run into.
Definitely.
All right, let's unpack this blueprint for beauty. The project goal here isn't just about diverting water, is it? There's like a clear dual purpose.
Absolutely. The primary purpose is functional drainage, no doubt. Getting that water from the downspout safely away from the house foundation, critical.
Right.
But the second, and I think equally important purpose, is adding significant aesthetic appeal. You're using natural elements, river rock, gravel, to create a feature that looks like it's always been there. It makes even rain events a beautiful part of your landscape.
So how do we start sketching out this path, making sure it flows naturally and doesn't look like some, rigid ditch dug by a machine? What's the secret to that organic feel?
Okay, the initial design phase is absolutely key for that natural look. You start with something really simple, like a garden hose or even just a piece of string.
Oh, okay.
Lay it out to map the path of your dry creek bed. Think natural, gentle curves, like how a real stream would meander.
Yeah.
Our sources recommend starting your path at least 4 to 6 feet out from the house. Give it some breathing room. And here's a crucial visual detail for realism. The trench should gradually widen as it moves away from the house.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, you start maybe about 12 inches wide right under the downspout, then expand it gently to about 24 or maybe even 30 inches wide at the end. That gives it that realistic flowing river effect.
Yeah. That widening makes so much sense for realism, mimicking a natural watercourse. Now, before we even think about touching a shovel, I know there are some absolutely crucial no regrets preliminaries. This is where that contractor's audit truly provides some vital secrets, isn't it?
This is perhaps the most critical step that so many DIYers overlook, honestly. And it's the fastest way to avoid a major, major headache before you dig anything.
Anything at all.
Anything. You absolutely must call 811. It's a free service available pretty much everywhere, and they come out and mark buried utilities, things like cable, gas lines, even irrigation lines.
Even for a shallow trench like this, only 6 to 8 inches.
Even for a shallow trench. Hitting one of those lines can lead to thousands in repairs, service outages, or even serious injury. It's truly the #1 contractor secret for a reason. Just make the call.
Seriously, that one free call can save you a world of trouble. Wow. What else is on that pre-dig checklist?
Okay, next, you also need to check your local rules, municipal setback rules specifically, and any homeowner association, your HOA drainage regulations.
Ah, the HOA.
Exactly.
Oh.
For example, some might require, say, a 10-foot setback from property lines for any drainage solutions. This is usually to avoid diverting water onto your neighbor's property, which can cause issues.
You don't want that.
Definitely not. Understanding these rules up front can prevent you from having to rip out all your hard work later. And a final pre-dig tip, just for efficiency. Pre-stage your rock piles by size.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, when a rock gets delivered, organize them right then. Large ones here, medium there, small gravel over there. It makes placement so much faster during installation and, honestly, saves your back from unnecessary strain.
That's a fantastic tip, efficiency, and avoiding a trip to the chiropractor. Okay, now that we have our blueprint and we've covered our crucial bases, what about gathering our arsenal? What are the core materials we'll need to make this dry creek bed a reality?
All right, your essential shopping list starts with the rocks and gravel, naturally. You'll need river rock, ideally 3 to 6 inches in size. These are for your borders and for creating those nice natural boulder accents. Plan for maybe about 4 bags, depending on length.
Okay, 3 to 6 inch river rock, 4 bags.
Then medium pebbles, maybe 1 to 3 inches. These are for your mid-layer filler. Plan on about 5 bags of those. And crucially, pea gravel. That's the smaller stuff, like half to 1 inch. This goes on the bottom surface. It is vital for proper water flow. You'll need around 4 bags of that, too.
So larger stones for the edges, medium for the middle, and that fine pea gravel for the base. Makes sense structurally. What goes underneath all those beautiful stones to keep the weeds out?
Good question. Underneath, you'll need weed barrier fabric, just a standard landscape fabric. 1 roll should do it, cut to size. Make sure you overlap any seams by at least 6 inches. That's key to prevent plants from sneaking through.
And how do you hold it down?
You'll need landscape staples. Grab a pack of those. You want to place one every 12 to 18 inches or so, especially along the edges and seams, to keep it secure.
And for the optional aesthetics, to really blend it into the surrounding landscape, make it look finished.
Yeah, good point. About 1 to 2 bags of mulch for the surrounding garden areas helps tie it all together. And then optional plants. Think maybe 8 to 10 plants like lariat, dwarf mondo grass, or maybe some sedum. These are great for softening the rock edges, and they also help a bit with erosion control.
We've got the basics down, but I'm really intrigued by these no-regrets material upgrades from the contractor's audit. What exactly elevates a project like this from, just good DIY to truly bulletproof?
Right, this is where you separate a good DIY job from a professional, long-lasting installation. First, if you're in a climate that gets freezing temperatures and thaws.
Like many of us are.
Exactly. Then you need to seriously consider upgrading from standard weed cloth to a heavy-duty 10-ounce woven geotextile filter fabric.
Geotextile fabric, why is that better?
It's far superior because it resists frost heave. That's when the water in the soil freezes, expands, and pushes everything upwards. It makes your beautifully laid rocks shift and buckle over time. This heavy-duty fabric is much more durable and keeps your creek bed stable for years, resisting that movement.
Ah, okay. That explains why I've seen some DIY projects look great for a year, then get all lumpy and uneven. That's a real game changer for longevity. What else? What can we add to fortify the base, especially for tricky soil types like heavy clay?
Yeah, if your soil is heavy clay, that sticky gumbo stuff many of us deal with, you'll definitely want to add Class 2 angular crushed stone. Usually 3/4 inch size is good. You'll need maybe 2 to 3 bags.
Angular crushed stone, how's that different?
Unlike round pea gravel, which can shift around, this angular stone has sharp edges that lock together when compacted. It creates an incredibly stable yet permeable base beneath your pea gravel. It significantly reduces settling, especially in challenging soils. It's like building a solid foundation for your creek bed.
So it's like building a stable, self-compacting skeleton for the whole thing. That's smart. Any other upgrades for the edges or connections that really make a difference?
Yes, 2 more worth mentioning. First, landscape edging. Either steel or sturdy plastic, about 10 to 12 feet should do it. It's optional, but it's a smart addition. It prevents grass or mulch from creeping into your beautiful rock bed, keeping those lines crisp and defined over time.
Good point. Keeps it looking neat.
And second, don't just rest the downspout elbow loosely. Get a proper downspout adapter, usually a 2x3 or a 3x4 inch aluminum to PVC adapter. You'll also need 2 sheet metal screws. This ensures your downspout elbow stays securely attached and doesn't pop off during heavy rains, sending water everywhere but into your creek bed.
Right. You want the water going where you plan. And for those truly torrential downpours where you just need that absolute peace of mind, is there an ultimate backup?
For an ultimate hidden safeguard, yes. You can consider installing a 4-inch corrugating drain pipe, about 10 to 12 feet long, maybe with a pop-up emitter at the end. This gets buried discreetly under the rocks, usually laid before the fabric. It can handle extreme overflow, quietly directing excess water further away from your home when your main creek bed reaches capacity. It's like an emergency exit for the water.
Okay, so we've got our materials list, basic and upgraded. What about the tools? What's in our essential kit to get this project started and, actually dig?
Okay, tools. You'll definitely need a flat shovel for digging the trench. A garden trowel is handy for smoothing details, placing fabric neatly, maybe digging small plant holes. You need a good, sturdy rake for spreading gravel and shaping the slope.
Wheelbarrow, too, I assume, for moving rocks.
Oh, absolutely. A wheelbarrow is essential for moving all that rock and soil without killing your back. A level is critical for checking that you maintain that consistent 1 to 2% slope away from the house. And you'll need a hose for testing water flow later on. Don't forget a sharp utility knife for cutting the fabric cleanly. And, of course, good, sturdy work gloves for safety when handling all those stones. Protect your hands.
Makes sense. And the audit-approved tools for enhanced stability and precision, the ones that make it truly pro-grade. What did the contractor emphasize?
The contractor's audit really recommends a tamper, either a manual hand tamper or, if you can rent one easily, a plate compactor. This is absolutely essential for compacting that loose soil after digging, and especially for packing down that angular crushed stone base if you use it. It ensures long-term stability and prevents future settling. Don't skip this.
Okay, tamping is key. Anything else?
You'll also want a tape measure and maybe a mason's string line to help set and check that consistent grade or slope accurately along the whole length. And for safety gear, always use eye protection, especially when digging or handling stone. And consider dust masks, particularly when dumping or spreading crushed stone. That dust can be nasty.
Got it. Safety first. All right, we're ready to get our hands dirty. Let's talk about the art of construction. What's the first step for excavating this trench, and how deep are we actually going?
Okay, excavation time. You'll dig the trench about 6 to 8 inches deep along that path you marked out earlier with a hose or string.
Yeah.
The real key here is constantly checking and maintaining that gentle slope away from the house. Remember, we're aiming for a 1 to 2% grade.
Which is about a 1 to 2 inch drop for every 10 feet of length. Right?
Exactly. You want enough slope so water flows efficiently without just sitting there pooling up.
Yeah.
And make sure to pile the removed soil nearby. You might need some of it for regrading around the edges later, or you can just add it to your compost pile.
And once that trench is dug, what's next for building that truly bulletproof base? This is where that added step from the audit comes in, the tamping.
Precisely. This is a crucial step from our addendum. After digging, you need to tamp the soil at the bottom of the trench thoroughly to compact it. Get it nice and firm. Then if you're using it, lay down about a 1-inch layer of that Class 2 angular crushed stone.
And tamp again.
And tamp again, yes.
Yes.
Compact that crushed stone layer firmly. This double tamping soil, then stone, provides an incredibly stable and permeable base for your fabric and rocks. It really helps prevent future settling and keeps your creek bed looking pristine for much longer.
Now for the fabric, the weed barrier, or even better, that heavy-duty geotextile we discussed, how do we lay that down properly to maximize its effectiveness?
Right, so you cut your fabric to size, make sure it's wide enough to come up the sides of the trench a bit. Lay it smoothly inside the trench, almost like lining a very shallow pond. Remember the critical overlap. Any seams where two pieces meet need to overlap by at least 6 inches.
Okay, 6-inch overlap.
And then secure it all down with those landscape staples. Place them every 12 to 18 inches, especially along the edges and definitely along those overlapped seams. This is really where that heavy-duty geotextile fabric shines, offering superior durability against weeds pushing through, and critically, resisting that frost heave we talked about, keeping everything locked nicely in place.
So we've got our trench dug, base compacted, and fabric laid down securely. What about that downspout connection and the plunge pool? That sounds like a really clever way to manage the initial impact of the water.
It really is a smart detail. First, securely attach that aluminum downspout elbow to your PVC adapter using 2 self-tapping sheet metal screws. Maybe add a dab of exterior silicone sealant around the joint just for good measure. This prevents any leaks right at the source.
Seal.
Then directly under that downspout outlet, you'll dig a small depression, the plunge pool basin, make it maybe 12 to 18 inches across and about 6 inches deep. Line this little basin with some of your larger river stones.
And what does that do exactly?
What's fascinating here is that this simple feature does 2 things. It minimizes splash when water first gushes out, and maybe more importantly, it prevents your smaller pea gravel near the entrance from scattering everywhere during heavy rainfall. It keeps that starting point neat and tidy and functioning well.
That's a brilliant little idea. Stops the splashback and keeps the smaller stones from washing away. Okay, so now we're finally ready to start building those rock layers to create that naturalistic look. Where do we begin laying the stone?
First, you'll put down a thin layer of that small pea gravel right on top of the fabric at the very bottom. This serves as the primary drainage layer and helps the water flow smoothly down the channel. Lightly rake it smooth, but try to maintain a slight bowl shape in the center of the trench, slightly deeper in the middle than the edges.
Okay, pea gravel base, slightly bold. then the big ones.
Then you start placing your largest river rocks and any boulders you have along the sides of the trench, forming your borders. These are key for keeping the water contained within the creek bed and providing that natural structure. A great pro tip is to bury each of these larger border stones about 1/3 of their height into the surrounding soil.
Burying them slightly.
Yeah, it gives them a much more natural and bedded look, like they've always been there. And it also increases their stability so they don't shift easily.
Makes sense. And then we start filling in the middle part.
Precisely. Now you fill the space between those large border rocks with your medium-sized pebbles, the 1 to 3 inch ones. Scatter them in there. You want a natural, non-uniform effect. Avoid making it look too perfect or artificially arranged. Just tumble them in.
Keep it looking random.
Exactly. Finally, pour another layer of pea gravel and maybe some of the remaining smaller stones down the middle over the top of the medium pebbles. Fill in any visible gaps and sort of feather the edges where the pea gravel meets the larger border rocks for a smooth, natural transition.
And then just hose it down.
Yep. Once you're happy with the rock placement, give the entire dry creek bed a good rinse with the hose. This helps settle all the stones into place, washes away any fine dust or sediment, and gives you a preview of how it looks wet.
Nice. And just quickly, for the ultimate no-regret safeguard for those truly epic storms, there was that optional buried overflow pipe. Can you briefly remind us how that gets installed?
Right, a hidden backup.
Yeah.
So for that extra layer of protection during really torrential rains, you could lay a 4-inch corrugated, usually flexible drain pipe. You typically place this under the geotextile fabric, maybe slightly off to one side, before you backfill with any rock. This pipe would then run underground and terminate maybe 8 or 10 feet away, often in a pop-up emitter that sits flush with the lawn, or into a small, dry well filled with gravel. It just quietly diverts that extreme excess water when your main creek bed's capacity is exceeded.
It's a discreet, high-capacity backup.
Got it.
Okay, the heavy lifting is done. Now for the finishing flourish, and importantly, how to keep it looking fantastic. What's the ultimate test of our work to make sure it functions as beautifully as it looks?
Okay, the ultimate test is critical. Don't skip this. Grab your garden hose, turn it on full blast, and simulate a really heavy downpour right at the downspout outlet. Let it run for a good 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Okay, a real stress test.
Exactly. Watch carefully how the water flows through your new creek bed. Does it pool up anywhere? Does it start to overflow the border rocks you placed? If you see any issues, now is the time to adjust a few rocks here and there, or maybe tweak the slope slightly by shifting some gravel. Also, double-check that the final grade of the soil right at the edges of the trench still slopes gently away from your house foundation. This is your final confirmation that everything works as intended, preventing water from ever flowing back toward your home.
Once we've confirmed it's flowing beautifully, handling the water like a champ, how do we landscape the edges to really tie it into the rest of the yard and make it look intentional?
Right, the finishing touches. You can plant those edging grasses or drought-tolerant plants we mentioned like liriope, sedum, maybe a juga, right along the borders of the dry creek bed. Tuck them in amongst the edge rocks. Then apply a layer of mulch around those plants and on the surrounding soil. This gives it a really neat finished look and helps suppress weeds.
Any pro tips for this stage?
Yes, a pro tip from our audit was, if you plan to install any landscape edging, that steel or plastic strip, or any solar or low-voltage LED path lights, try to do it before you do the final rock dressing and planting. This way you avoid disturbing your perfectly placed stones later on when you're digging trenches for wires or pounding in stakes.
Good thinking. Order of operations. Speaking of lights, that brings us to the wow factor, doesn't it? What are some simple ways to truly elevate the design and make it a stunning feature, maybe even at night?
Absolutely. You can elevate the design significantly and easily by adding some solar pat lights or maybe those flat, low-profile LED garden stones along the edges or even nestled amongst the rocks within the creek bed. The way they illuminate the textures of the rocks and maybe catch any lingering moisture at night can be truly magical.
Nice ambiance.
Yeah. Or, if you want to get really creative and your creek bed is wide enough, you could consider adding a small decorative bridge, wooden or stone, or even just a few strategically placed flat stepping stones to create a path across it. These little details really transform it from just drainage into a cohesive, intentional landscape element.
Love those ideas. And once it's all done and beautiful, how do we keep it pristine? Any essential seasonal maintenance tips to keep it functioning and looking great year after year?
Definitely. Maintenance is pretty low but important. First, make it a habit to clear out fallen leaves and any other debris, especially after storms. You don't want things clogging up the flow.
Right, keep it clear.
Each spring, just take a look. Relevel any gravel that might have shifted, especially if you get frost heave. You might need to top up the pea gravel layer every 2 to 3 years, just a thin layer, as some might wash away or settle. If you notice any algae or sediment buildup on the rocks, especially in shady spots, just give it a good rinse with a hose once a season to keep the rocks looking fresh and clean. And yeah, just a quick sweep around the inlet at the downspout after big storms ensures it remains clear and ready for the next rain. It's mostly just keeping it free of debris.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've taken you on today. From, battling those annoying backyard drainage issues to really transforming your outdoor space with a beautiful, functional landscape feature. We've covered everything from the initial design concepts and those crucial pre-dig steps.
To selecting the right materials, both basic and those smart upgrades.
Right, wielding the essential tools and actually executing the construction step by step with that professional precision in mind.
And we really tried to focus on those no regrets upgrades, like using the heavy-duty geotextile fabric, adding that angular crushed stone base, securing the downspout properly. These are the things that ensure your DIY project has a truly durable, long-lasting finish. It's proof that it's not just about moving water. It's about adding significant, lasting curb appeal and making your outdoor space truly unique.
And here's a final thought to mull over. Think about this small act of carefully guiding water on your own property. You're not just protecting your home's foundation, which is huge, but you're also subtly helping reduce the strain on municipal storm drains during heavy rains. You might even be helping replenish local groundwater more effectively.
That's a great point. It's a small but potentially powerful step towards creating a more resilient and healthier local environment. Starting right in your own backyard, you're effectively becoming a steward of your own little micro watershed.
It definitely encourages a more holistic view of how water works in our environment, doesn't it? Starting right at home.
It really does.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into creating a fantastic DIY dry creek bed. Remember, if you found this useful, please like this episode, subscribe to the show for more in-depth explorations like this one, and maybe share it with anyone you know looking to tackle their own outdoor projects.
Yeah, your support really helps us keep bringing you these practical, pro-level insights. And don't forget to check out our affiliate links in the description for some of the tools and materials we talked about today. It helps support the show.
Absolutely, and we love hearing from you, so please leave a comment below with your own project ideas, any questions you have, or maybe topics you'd love for us to deep dive into next. Until next time, keep digging into knowledge.